Hey, this show is made possible by Workplace Assured. What is Workplace Assured? Great question. It's like having a really smart friend you can ring when you've got a curly business question, which means, as a business owner, you can worry less about issues like wrong pay rates, leave entitlements, and unfair dismissal, and you can focus on the big stuff, like what's your next Facebook post going to say? Try Workplace Assured out now for free by calling 1300 496 955. And we're also made possible thanks to Key Person of Influence, which is a 40-week accelerator program designed to make you more visible, more valuable and more connected in your industry. Who doesn't want a bit of that? Grab a free hard copy of their New York Times bestseller over at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. Now, today's guest, well, he went on a self-proclaimed nerd pilgrimage, quote unquote, to Silicon Valley in the hope of finding the next big thing. Well, guess what? He found it. He discovered the share economy, and he's now on a mission to create the Airbnb of self-storage. Oh, I love people who dream big.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, Australia's #1 marketing podcast. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. But you, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. That is what we have been doing for 347 shows. If you've listened to them all, thank you. If it's your first time round, I welcome you with open arms. Your business will never be the same. Hey, big show today. Mike Rosenbaum's going to join us, who in a past life founded Deals Direct. He's now the founder of a cool new business called Spacer, which is a cheap way to rent space in your local area. And Mike talks about this nerd pilgrimage he went on to Silicon Valley. Plus, he'll help us understand the share economy and explain how he's brought this wonderful business called Spacer to market. A couple of good marketing ideas in there as well. I share another low-cost marketing idea in What Have You Got to Lose? And today's idea is all about how to get maximum exposure for your top blog and social posts, which we all want to do. And we head back into the Small Business Big Marketing Vault, and we revisit a past episode of 3 years ago when I caught up with the girls from Frank Body Scrub, which is a beautifully simple business that went from naught to plenty very, very quickly, and they continue to do some amazing things. Hey, as per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Coming up, we meet Spacer's Mike Rosenbaum, who's going to explain how we can all benefit from the share economy. Plus, I'm going to give you some insights into Workplace Assured and Key Person of Influence so they can help you take your business to the next level. But first, I think it's time for me to share one simple yet effective marketing idea that you can implement now, immediately. An idea that's not going to cost a fortune, that might just generate you more awareness, more inquiry, and more sales. What have you got to lose? I do love that intro. Today's idea is to create a top posts review. Let me explain. You see, the problem with blogging regularly for your business, and I hope you're doing that, is that sometimes your best blog posts and most shared content gets buried over time as you continue to publish more and more content, right? Just that naturally happens. So as a marketer, it's your job to implement a promotion strategy that keeps these posts alive. Right? You don't want there's some great posts buried in the bowels of your website. We want to bring them back to life. Bowels of your website. One great way to extend the life of your blog post is by creating what I call a top Posts Review, which is simply a compilation of your best and most shared blog posts from a particular time period. Could also include your most commented on social posts from the same period. Now, lots of businesses publish this type of post, not because they're interested in blowing their own horn, although I would argue some are. That's okay. If they don't, who is? But because it's a great way to get their best and most well-received content in front of new readers and potential customers. So, here's my three simple steps to creating your own top posts review. Step 1, compile a list of posts that receive the highest traffic or engagement during a particular period of time. Or you could compile a list of top posts that also relate to the same topic. Step 2, decide how you want to share your list. So, for example, you could write a blog post, you could send out an email, you could make an infographic, and start to create your review. Write an interesting introduction that pulls readers in and keeps them reading, and add 1 or 2 sentence summary for each post that you include. Step 3, publish your top post review, making it easy for people to share by adding social buttons or links. And here's the pro tip. Include your review in the welcome emails you send out to new customers. You could boost it on Facebook, or you could include it in your email signature. As always, there'll be links in the show notes to any resources I mentioned over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/347. And if you'd like help implementing any of these ideas I share in this segment, go ahead and join the Small Business Big Marketing Club over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where I will personally support you on your marketing journey. So, what have you got to lose? Hey, before we discover the big wide world of the share economy with Mike Rosenbaum, I'd love to tell you about a service that will help any employer sleep more soundly, knowing that all their people problems are under control. Support for this show comes from Workplace Assured. As business owners, we know a lot about whatever it is we sell. But what about when it comes to running the HR part of your business? All those niggly, unanswered questions you just aren't trained to answer. Questions like, what if one of my employees starts bullying others? What if an employee gets blind drunk and abusive at a social gathering? Or how do I cancel an underperforming supplier's contract? Oh, the pain. Well, listen, it doesn't have to be that way. What if you could focus on building that beautiful business of yours, knowing that the answers to all these questions and more were just a phone call away? Well, that is absolutely possible thanks to Workplace Assured. No crippling claims or eye-watering legal fees, just solid answers to your most pressing questions. You can try it out now for free by calling Workplace Assured's advice line on 1300 496 955. Righto, Mike Rosenbaum, he would be today's guest, and he is a serial entrepreneur who previously co-founded and made a lot of dough from Deals Direct. He is now the co-founder of Spacer.com.au, which is the Airbnb of space, basically, specifically helping people utilise their underutilised assets like self-storage and driveways. He's also a major investor in some of the top sharing economy platforms around the world. So listen in, because Mike is going to talk about his nerd pilgrimage to Silicon Valley that he did recently, where he uncovered this thing called the share economy and of which Spacer was born. He also explains the share economy and why it's so important to business owners like you and I going forward, and how he's launched and marketed Spacer so effectively. Hey, remember to stick around after the interview where I share my top 3 attention grabbers. So here's Mike talking about his time in the Valley.
You know, after sort of founding and going through the whole, 10-year journey with my last business, Deals Direct, which is one of the pioneering online department stores, I took a bit of a sabbatical, went to Silicon Valley, and, I call it sort of Disneyland for nerds, and I consider myself very much a nerd, and I sort of fell in love with the sharing economy.
Yeah, so right.
that's sort of how it started. Yeah.
So you sold Deals Direct. You started that in 2004. Was the internet alive then? Must have been just. You sold that 2 years ago, and clearly you could have taken. Well, you did take a sabbatical, but it was a working sabbatical. What did you go to Silicon Valley to hopefully uncover?
Yeah, look, as I said, partly a bit of the Disneyland thing, like looking at, but no, on a serious note, really was looking for, what's the latest and greatest in tech, and, get some new inspiration, some new learnings. The space is moving so quickly. A quarter is a long time in tech space. So it was great. I went to events like TechCrunch Disrupt. I met with a whole bunch of VCs in the Valley, lots of entrepreneurs. Just spoke to lots of people, lots of coffees, lots of dinners with other entrepreneurs. What
does that look like? I guess having had Deals Direct for so long and having had such great success, your network would have been strong, right?
Yeah, look, I was very fortunate, over that decade or so. I did business with a lot of amazing people, and I got to meet lots of wonderful people. So certainly I was off to a good start. But in the Valley, it was all brand new for me. So I had to sort of, just do the old thing, go and meet with people and ask them for intros. And
was it humbling?
Absolutely. But I found that. People in Silicon Valley are very open and they're willing to introduce you to their network. So it's a great community, and I think that ecosystem is also here now, alive in Sydney and Melbourne. There's a very strong startup community now.
Sure,
I'm a part of. Yeah.
In the Valley, was it? Because I imagine that it'd be very easy to be distracted by bright, shiny objects almost on a daily basis, where someone's going, that's the next big thing. Check this out. We just need $100,000 here and you'll make $10 million. And is it like that?
Yeah, look, there certainly is a bit of that, particularly at the conferences where you're seeing companies pitch.
Yeah.
But you quite quickly realise, where you fit in. And for me, it was very much, my experience was in e-commerce, and I was looking for something that was perhaps that I could take those skills and experiences and apply them to a new area. And, the sharing economy just made perfect sense to me. It was something that I really believed in. And, it's a marketplace play, which is very similar to where I come from. E-commerce is a marketplace as well. Yeah.
So the sharing economy was the big idea that you came home with. But before I get you to explain what that's all about, were there some other ideas that nearly kind of made the grade?
Look, there was a lot of stuff that was way over my head, around cybersecurity. You had guys from Tel Aviv and from Russia, and I could see they were all PhDs, and I just couldn't relate. I was in awe, but I just thought, this is not me. I can't do that.
Yeah.
There was lots of robotics. There was, 3D printing, all this cool stuff, which, they're the shinies, I guess.
So what was your criteria?
Look, I was really looking for something that I could bring back to Australia. Australia is a market that I've been working in for, my whole working career. And I kind of, as you said, I got some good contacts. I sort of understand the space, how to build a business in Australia. So looking for that next venture that I could launch in the Australian market. Perhaps something that hadn't been exposed to Australians yet. It wasn't going to be 3D printing or robotics.
So tell me, what can you remember the moment in the Valley when you've gone, it's the sharing economy, that's what I'm going to do?
Well, I was fortunate enough. I actually had a tour of Airbnb's headquarters, and I also had a tour of Lyft, which is a competitor to Uber over there. And I just got this great vibe. I just thought, to me, this feels a lot like e-commerce felt like in the early 2000s. Before Deals Direct, we actually started on eBay, and eBay launched 2001, which sort of predated online shopping. It was all $1 no reserve auctions, and I just got that same feeling. It felt like this is an industry in its infancy, that I could get in on the ground floor and build a business. So
yeah, nice to get a tour of Uber and Lyft.
Yeah. Well, Lyft and Airbnb was
Airbnb, yeah.
Yeah, very, very snazzy offices. Each of their meeting rooms is sort of kitted out like their most popular apartments in each of their main cities. So
Brilliant.
It's very, very cool office, yeah.
That is really, really cool. Like mirror images of the popular apartments.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's so clever.
Yeah.
That's so clever. Yeah. So you've gone, it's the sharing economy. Explain it. So what is the sharing economy and what's so interesting about it?
Yeah, what I love so much about it is really it's creating value. So, you've got these underutilized assets. So in the case of Airbnb, you've got, spare bedrooms or spare apartments, or people go on holidays and, other people can come and live in them and they can make some extra money whilst they're not using them. So it's really tapping into those underutilized assets that sit all around us. So you're not creating new things for people to use, which is, I guess, what we were doing in e-commerce. We were building, we were creating and manufacturing new products to sell. In this case, you're sort of recycling or better utilizing assets that already sit around us, whether they're cars or homes or and the other thing is people's skill set. There's really successful models like Airtasker where people want to earn an extra income. After their day job, they might want to do a couple of hours of handyman work or pick up someone's kids from school or whatever it might be. It just makes sense, and so that, I find it very exciting.
Yeah, I do too. Every time I use these services, like Airtask is a classic example. In fact, I was only in the Philippines 2 weeks ago and I was doing a tour of a business, a BPO, and I looked to my right and there was the Airtasker head office, or like the Airtasker, not head office, but where it all was run out of, I was so excited because they're exciting brands to use. When you do use a share economy brand like an Airbnb or an Uber or an Airtasker, there is, I don't know, is it just me or there is an element of excitement about it?
Yeah, I think there is, and I think it's part of the appeal is that you're dealing with other people in your community, and I think as human beings, I'm not a psychologist, but I think we want to interact with other people that are like us, like-minded, and locals, and perhaps we might even make some new friends. So it's
totally agree. And I think there's probably also an element of there's excitement, there's the fact that you're going to meet new people, and you are going to you feel like you're going to get a bargain.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's definitely value being created in terms of, utilising these assets that are sort of sitting dormant, but also on the consumer side, you can save significant amounts, up to 50% in many cases, depending which service you're tapping into.
It's interesting, like that is the case with Uber generally, but, when Uber do a surge, all of a sudden Uber can outprice themselves against taxis pretty quickly.
Yeah, that can be quite frustrating, particularly on a Saturday night or leading up to Christmas.
But I guess it's supply and demand.
Exactly right. So I guess it's a perfect marketplace, or that's what they're trying to create. Yeah.
So we've got a whole bunch of businesses, small business owners listening, Mike. How can they tap into the share economy? How can they save money, and how can they make money from it?
Yeah, look, I think there's lots of ways that they could save or make money. I guess on the one side, if they have assets that are sitting there dormant, so let's say they've taken a lease, or perhaps they own an office or a warehouse or maybe a shop that's too big for them at the moment. Maybe they've taken something in anticipation of growth in the future. They might have some spare storage rooms, or they might have some spare office space. They could rent those out. Using the sharing economy, whether it's businesses like mine, spacer.com.au or others, and basically monetize those spaces, reduce their outgoings on a monthly basis. And the beauty of the sharing economy is often, as the supplier on these platforms, you can set most of the rules. So you can say, look, it's month to month, and you've got that flexibility that if you need that space back, you can take it back as your business grows. So that's one way. We're also seeing things like businesses that have fleets of vehicles, maybe even small fleets of vehicles, maybe they're not being used on the weekend. They can rent them out on platforms for locals in their area to drive those vehicles.
What's an example of a platform? Is that in Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. Car Next Door is one I actually sit on the board of. There are others, so that's pretty cool. And again, why have I think the stat is 90% of the time vehicles sit in the driveway. So
Yeah, right.
dormant. So
and 90% of the time for all the other vehicles that aren't in driveways, there's driveways empty. So I think, in fact, Spacer,
exactly.
You do driveways, don't you?
Yeah, we do driveways, garages.
Fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Does it get messy, this share economy thing, where all of a sudden, because at the end of the day, you're a software business, correct? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. We're a marketplace,
You're a
driven by
marketplace.
software. Yeah, correct.
But all of a sudden, you are dealing with people's homes and driveways and cars and offices, and that can get a bit messy, can't it? How do you manage that? Is it just like some crazy 100-page contract that you sign your life away and it says at the end, "Don't call us"?
No, not at all. I mean, it's very similar to using eBay or Airbnb. Key to any business is keeping it simple and having a streamlined process for both sides of the marketplace. So, you typically sign up, you have to provide certain details, we profile you, verify you, that kind of thing. And then, both sides of the market, the supplier and the renter, will make contact through the messaging tools, get to know each other a little bit, perhaps they'll even meet. That's very important. Often people want to sort of see who they're dealing with because it is person to person or peer to peer is the sort of the more technical term. But the transaction goes through the marketplace like a Spacer. The benefits there are you get insurance, the host gets guaranteed monthly payments, and it's all kept above board, all the taxes are paid and things like that through the platform.
Right.
And of course there's things like ratings and reviews, again very, very similar to an eBay or an Airbnb experience.
Are ratings and reviews at the heart of it? Like, are they just like mission critical?
Very important, absolutely. Particularly in the early days of a marketplace, it's very hard to know who you're dealing with. So ratings and reviews are very important. Testimonials, so people are going to Google, whatever brand they're looking for, and reviews. That's probably the second most searched term after the brand term itself,
Yeah,
So
totally.
you go Spacer reviews, you'll see there's 28 Google reviews, and most of them are good, maybe one or two are not, and you make your decision yourself. Yeah.
So you come back, you launch Spacer, which is this beautifully put on the website. It's a marketplace for space. That makes sense. And we're talking self-storage and driveways and offices and all that stuff. You get the website live, you got that working, but there's that chicken or the egg thing, isn't it? It's like you've got to get people with those facilities that want to rent them out, and then you want to find people who want to use those facilities. Which did you focus on?
Yeah, look, absolutely right, Tim. We sort of say it's like moving the boulder. It's very hard to get it rolling, but once you get it rolling, you get the momentum. And definitely from my experience in e-commerce, it's all about supply. We used to say at Deals Direct, you can't sell off an empty shelf. So, we wanted to fill those shelves quickly, obviously with the right kind of stock or supply. So, we've spent the first 12 months very much focusing on getting good hosts, good listings of garages, driveways.
So how'd you do that?
Yeah. Really by stealth. We've tried a bit of everything. Certainly we've done some PR, like, talking to people like yourself and getting the word out there, which is very important. Because it is a new concept, it needs to be explained. But a combination of online and offline marketing. So, some of your listeners may have received flyers in their letterbox from us. They might have seen us on Facebook, Google, right across the web. We sort of try all different mediums, but we believe because it is a new concept, you do need to have a combination of online and offline just to get that awareness piece.
Mate, I love it. Here we are having this high-tech conversation about Silicon Valley, and in the next breath you mentioned a letterbox drop. Tell me about that.
I know. It sounds very lo-fi, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but I love it.
And I guess that's one of the learnings also from e-commerce. And we used to do catalogue drops, would you believe?
No.
We were in the letterbox with Big W as well. But I guess you've got to be where your consumers are. And then they don't just live in the online world. Of course, most consumers today spend a lot of time on their mobile phones.
Yep.
but they also, they read magazines, they watch television, they read the paper, that kind of stuff.
Do they? It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we live in a very virtual world these days. I mean, the newspaper is wafer thin, television, all those three mediums you mentioned, I would argue are struggling. I think they've still got the numbers, but you see good results from them.
Yeah, look, we're certainly not at the stage yet of doing TV advertising, but yeah, look, perhaps I gave some bad examples there, but I guess what I meant was certainly you need to be both in the virtual world, in the online world, and the physical world. So we'll do things like, we'll do a stall at the Leichhardt Norton Street Fair where there's 100,000 people walking up and down Norton Street on a Sunday. So you're building awareness of your brand in that sort of hyper local.
So tell me, how do you maximise that? That's interesting. I had a gym owner out of Brooklyn on this show a few years ago, and that was her number one marketing channel, which was to go to fairs and street fetes and all that type of stuff. And her number one goal was that she would carry her iPad and get people's email addresses at these events. How did you approach the Leichhardt Fair?
Yeah, look, very similar to that. I mean, some of the great, sort of advisors and mentors in Silicon Valley say to startups, initially you've got to do things that don't scale. So what you do to start your business isn't necessarily what you're going to be doing in 5 and 10 years, hopefully when your business is, a much larger entity. But to get started, you do need to sort of, hit the pavement, a bit like the politicians, they go door knocking, right?
Yeah.
Sounds ridiculous, but yes, we do. We get the iPad out, we talk to people, we learn from them, we modify our product based on what they tell us. So, we go to these fairs, we talk to lots of customers, potential customers, we educate them about our marketplace, we get ideas from them, and, we may not sign up a fortune of them, but it's building the brand. And we've actually been to Norton Street Fair 2 years in a row now. So just when we launched and sort of 12 months later, and people are going, oh yeah, I've heard of Spacer now. So it's starting to build your brand, and it doesn't cost that much, So it's
I love that advice about doing things that don't scale. It just makes in those early days, it just makes sense because whilst scale is important, and a recent guest on this show is Michael Gerber, and he's all about scale. But one of the things is that I'm sure other magical things have probably happened as a result of you doing things that don't necessarily scale. Would that be true?
Yeah, I think you're right. And sometimes it's hard to pinpoint those things, but I'm a great believer in trying lots of different things. We call it rotation marketing. So we will move from one medium to the next and just test and see what channels work. And it's also just about getting your brand out there, building the awareness, building the trust and credibility in the marketplace. I don't think there are many businesses out there that have succeeded just on Google or just on Facebook alone. I think that's pretty lazy business.
Yeah, totally. The rotation marketing, Mike, how does that look like in the business? Do you guys, how many people are in the business right now in Spacer?
Yeah, we've got about 10 team members in total. So I've got a business partner and then about 8 staff.
Local?
Yep. Both local and offshore. We tap into the best and brightest, wherever they're located. And I guess that's the beauty of online today. You don't have to have all your staff sitting right next to you. Of course, some of them are, but some of them are, in other places of the world, whether they're in Tel Aviv or Silicon Valley or Manila.
Okay. Love it. Let's hold that thought. I want to come to that. But my thinking around, rotation marketing, because I love that concept. Do you guys say, okay, this month we're going to try letterbox drops, we're going to identify some more markets, we are going to do some SEO, and we're going to create a YouTube channel. And then you go and do all that, and then what do? You come back and report back and go, how did all that go? Work or not?
Absolutely. That's how we do it. I mean, we plan it out like a calendar, an annual calendar. You plan out, you plot out what you want to do each month, and you're flexible as to how that changes based on the results, like you said. So it's exactly like that. Yep.
Love it. What's given you the biggest bang for your marketing buck?
Look, it's hard to beat PR. You certainly can't plan it as such, but when we launched, we were fortunate enough to be on Channel 7 News. That was fantastic, just to build that initial, awareness and sort of credibility piece. So content marketing is very important. It's a bit of a buzzword, but, being on podcasts like yours, Tim, is very important for us. I
would argue this is PR, and content marketing, I would argue, is where I have a phrase I call helpful content, because there's no shortage of content out there, right? So my kind of twist on that is whatever content you create, make it helpful so that people can make a more informed purchase decision. What content is Spacer creating?
Yeah, so things around, how to declutter your home, which is a big one, mess is stress, so, we're in the storage game. How do we make it sort of relevant to the consumer? And it's sort of, what's being searched for out there in the market.
That's really interesting, because, people look at creating content and they'll go, oh, I'm in the self-storage industry, or I'm an accountant. What could I create? But, clearly, you've proven by simply the content that you're creating that that's not the case. You can create interesting content no matter what you do.
That's right. Absolutely. The other one for us is it's kind of a good news story. How can you make some extra money, some extra income to supplement your income? Mm-hmm. So that's always a good one as well. Yeah.
Love it. You say tap into the best and brightest. I like that. So you've got 10 staff all up? And they're
that's right.
Okay. So you said Manila, Tel Aviv. You got someone in the Valley. How do you find them?
Yeah, partly through the network. Recommendations are really important when trying to find specialists in certain areas, particularly in the tech space. There's a lot of people who or agencies that sort of say they can do certain things, mm-hmm. But especially when you're a startup, you don't have a lot of time and money to waste. So you really want to hit the ground running. So recommendations are key from your network. And then there are platforms, much like, Spacer for getting storage, there are platforms like Upwork and others out there, TopTal, for finding great talent in certain verticals, whether they're developers, designers, marketing, whizzes, content writers, things like that.
Yeah. Well, I have an interest in a business in the Philippines called Cornerstone Business Solutions, Mike. And some people, it kind of gets their back up. Oh, it's un-Australian, you're going offshore. But, you've been living in a flat world economy since 2004 with Deals Direct. The world's changed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We live in a global village, and I think if you're not doing it, your competitors certainly are. So you'll get left behind, and consumers are demanding it. How can you offer 7 day a week, 12-hour a day, or 24-hour a day in some cases service? In an environment like Sydney or Melbourne, people don't want to work at 2 in the morning.
People don't want to work. If they do, it's going to cost you a bomb. It just becomes expensive. So I love that. You have come from Deals Direct, lots of success. You've gone to the Valley, and now you're running this little startup called Spacer. How do you love it? Are you excited by being back at the coalface?
I'm really excited. I'm more sort of engaged and invigorated than ever. It feels a lot to me like when we started Deals Direct, and nice. It's kind of like a new love, the early stages are often the most exciting, like
you're such a romantic nerd.
Exactly. I'm a real nerd. Look, I'm loving it. I love sort of problem solving with the team.
Did you
get value?
Were you getting bored at Deals Direct by the end?
No, not at all. The business evolved a lot over the years, and I had to evolve myself and learn. And but I guess one of the things, being self-aware is, so you sort of learn what you're good at and what you're not so good at. And for me, I think starting businesses and building them is really my forte. And perhaps once they get to a certain stage, that's the time to bring in, people with different skill sets to take them to that next stage of, corporatizing or what it may be. So, I'm a startup guy for sure.
So year 2 of Spacer, what are you good at right now? What are you bringing to the party?
Look, what we really focus on is building a great customer experience. So
what about you, Mike Rosenbaum?
Look, I'm a tech nerd, so a lot of it is building a great product. You know, the buzzword is user experience. So really, making that whole experience on the website and through to into transaction really seamless. And the other side that I really focus on is the marketing. So my two passions, I guess, are tech and marketing. And so I think this business is kind of made for me, because that's really what it's about.
Tell us about customer user experience, because I get excited by this. I love it when, a business, whether they be online or offline, delivers an experience where you go, that was fun, or that little bit was cool, or, you want to tell others to go, check this out, How do you go about creating an amazing experience?
Yeah, look, I'm certainly not the guru, but I'm learning every day, and what I'm sort of learning is that it's just about making the customer journey so easy and seamless. And if you look at the best apps in the world, like Uber, you press a button and a car arrives. It's that simple. So how do we sort of mere mortals create an app, without billions of dollars of shareholders' funds, how do we recreate that?
That's right. You look at Apple and, you grab a file and you drag it into the trash and it's emptied, right? It's gone. I mean, I'm sure behind the scenes, that was quite a complicated thing to do, for someone who's not who is not nerdy, who doesn't understand that. So I'm always fascinated. How do we as business owners simplify things for our customers so that there is minimum friction and they can quickly hand over their hard-earned?
Yeah, look, and I think the other thing is really talking to your customers and learning from them. There's nothing to beat that face-to-face or over the phone, and we do a lot of that and speak to them and ask them about their experience. What could we improve? What did you like about it? What was perhaps a bit confusing? So all the time we just keep iterating our website, testing things. So it's like a forever game, really, and you just keep fine tuning it, which is cool. I mean, as a nerd, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, you love it. Oh yeah, absolutely. You get customer experience porn, I think they call it. Tell me
that one, but I might use that.
Yeah, it's yours. Tell me, you've got. It is early days for Spacer. You have got a solid platform now online. You've got, I think, is it 2,000 listed car parks and offices and storage spaces in mainly Victoria and New South Wales?
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah.
What's the tipping point? I mean, if you knew it, you'd be there. But, when's that going to tip into, I think you called it moving the boulder. When does that boulder start to really roll? What do you got to do?
Yeah, look, we're certainly seeing very strong early traction, and I'll call it early traction because we certainly haven't made it yet. But I feel like we're on the right track, and every day the business is growing very nicely, and we're getting great customer feedback, which we're implementing into the site. But, I think with startups, there's no overnight successes. Airbnb have been around for 8 years. Most Aussies wouldn't remember that. They think they've been around a couple of years because that's when they started hearing about them. The first year of Airbnb, they only did 80 bookings. Well, we did a lot more than 80 bookings in our first year. So does that mean we're on the right track? Well, we think so. So I think these things take time. Certainly a two-sided marketplace is not easy to get off the ground because, as we discussed before, you've got to get the supply first, chicken and egg, and then you've got to fill it with demand, and you've got to keep matching and sort of calibrating both sides of the market. So look, this is a long-term play, and we're in it for the long term, but certainly enjoying it and seeing some really, really strong growth. Yep.
Mate, I reckon it's exciting. I really love seeing these businesses evolve, and I'm glad I've spoken to you at a relatively early stage. And I'm going to get you back in a couple of years' time when there's, it is the Airbnb of the world, of the Airbnb of what? Of office space? How would you define it? It's kind of...
Yeah, look, our customers often liken us to the Airbnb for storage and parking. Okay. I guess we really focus on garages for storage and sort of driveways and car spaces for parking. Yep.
Now, Mike, I love to finish with 5 quickies for my guest, completely unrelated questions to anything we've spoken about. The first one is, what are you curious about?
What am I curious about? Yeah, I was going to say the sharing economy. I'm a real nerd, you know. I'm pretty obsessive. Yeah.
You can delve into your personal life if you want to.
Yeah, no, that's the main one actually. Yeah.
You really are a nerd, aren't you? Do you live and breathe it? Do you just like it is what you do?
Yeah. That's right. I spend most of my time, you know, when I'm not working on Twitter and LinkedIn, reading more about what's happening in the world in the sharing economy. And just my wife's dismay. Yeah.
Do you go to people's homes for dinner parties and notice that third bedroom just isn't being utilised and pull out some kind of PowerPoint presentation?
You have worked me out, Tim.
Oh, mate, I love it. Okay, sweet or savoury, and what dish?
Ooh, savoury, satay chicken, my favourite.
Satay chicken. It is a good dish. Very 1983, but I do like it. What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
Oh, gosh, the worst advice. I don't know the worst advice, but the best advice was always wear the white hat, which basically means just always try and do the right thing, regardless of the situation. Yeah.
Nice, the white hat.
Yeah.
Bit of an SEO term, really, isn't it? Nerd. What's one thing you wish you were? I know what you're going to say now. What's the one thing you wish you're an expert on right now? And don't say the share economy.
No. There was one thing I wish I was an expert on. I think if you always want to be able to understand consumers better. So maybe if I had like a crystal ball or some sort of ESP, skills, I don't know, something like that.
But what business owner doesn't want to do that? And I think you're right. And we've spoken about this on the show before, where nothing beats talking to them, does it? I mean,
yeah, that's true. That's right. It's a good second. Yeah.
Surely the minute the owner of a business, no matter what the size, stops interacting with his or her customers, has to be the start of a downfall.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds drastic, but we can learn a lot by a simple... In fact, I came across a book the other day. Is it called The One Question? I think the one question you can ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer us to others or something? Have you heard about that?
Yeah, it's kind of like Net Promoter Score, right?
Net Promoter Score. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of businesses, that's their key KPI for their whole team. Yeah.
And then once you get that question, it then kind of opens up to some secondary questions about, what could we do better, all that kind of stuff. Question 5: when were your parents most disappointed with you?
Ooh, when I dropped out of university after year 1. Yeah, they were very worried. They thought I'd never leave home and they'd be stuck with me forever.
Mate, I love that. I mean, how often do we hear that? It sounds cliche, doesn't it? But so then at what point did you ring mum and dad and go, hey, that Deals Direct thing, it's going okay?
It took them a while to realise it was a thing, but I guess when I stopped asking for my pocket money, that probably...
I love it.
Yeah.
Long live the nerd. Hey, Mike, thank you, buddy, and I wish you all the best with Spacer.
Thanks very much, Tim, for having me on the program. It was great to chat with you.
There you go. You are now officially up to speed on all things share economy, thanks to Mike Rosenbaum of spacer.com.au. You can also hit him up on Twitter at Mike_Rosenbaum. Tell him you heard him on the show. Coming up, I share my top 3 attention grabbers from that fireside chat with Mike. But first, here's a word from a business that wants to help you be more visible, more valued and connected in your industry. Support for this show comes from Key Person of Influence, the world's leading business accelerator program for those wanting to be an industry thought leader. Their 5-step KPI method teaches you how to nail your pitch, publish content, productize your offer, raise your profile, and partner with performers. I asked co-founder Glenn Carlson, what's with the P fetish?
Oh, yeah, I suppose it is a bit of a fetish, isn't it? But I guess we're just a bit obsessed. Fetishes, obsessions, we're just business geeks, mate. We believe there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, and we're all in. We are just all in. And if we find best practices and ideas as a result of what's working for our clients all around the world, we just want to bring it to people. And so far, the best framework that we've found to be able to do that, to really accelerate that entrepreneurial journey in the shortest time, is the 5 Ps. So, mate, get in on the fetish.
KPI, where fetishes rule. For a free hard or audio copy of their Amazon bestseller, visit keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. Oh, and a little warning. Don't read it before bed. You just won't sleep. Now, my top 3 attention grabbers, thanks to Key Person of Influence and Workplace Assured. Attention grabber number 1. In the early days of your business, do things that don't scale. I love that. That makes a lot of sense. I love how Mike got out and did some local area marketing with those letterbox drops. In fact, I would actually argue that no matter what the age of your business, every now and then, it's absolutely okay to do things that don't scale. Attention grabber number 2, rotation marketing. I like this concept. I think too many business owners get stuck doing the same old marketing and wonder why it's not working. I hope as a listener of this show, you're identifying ideas that resonate and you're rotating them into your marketing schedule. Try new stuff. Have fun with it. Experiment. Pivot if something doesn't work. Don't delete it immediately. Rotation marketing. Attention grabber number 3, create value. In fact, I would argue create extreme value. So ask yourself the question, how can you enhance your offer to customers so that they simply can't say no? I try to do this with the Small Business Big Marketing Club, where for one very low monthly price, fee, investment of $67, you get me answering your marketing questions every day. You get access to training videos, webinars and interviews I don't post on iTunes. I'm trying to create extreme value so that it's hard for you to say no. I know some of you are still saying no, but you'll come round. You'll join the club. There's plenty of us in there. Hey, what grabbed your attention? I would love to know. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/347 and leave a comment. Well, that almost wraps up another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, but plenty of marketing gold coming your way in the weeks ahead. Got some great interviews lined up. You have reason to be excited. Hey, a couple of years ago, in fact 3, I chatted with Jess and Erica, founders of the now famous and hugely successful Frank Body Scrub brand. Here they are talking about where the idea for a body scrub made from coffee came from.
Well, one of our business partners, Steve, owns a cafe in Paran, and he had a couple of women that kept coming in and asking him for the old coffee grind. And he's quite inquisitive and has quite the entrepreneurial mind, and started talking to them about it after realising that they weren't using it for what he thought they were, which was fertiliser. And turns out there was actually a really great body exfoliant.
Wow.
Around about the same time, we actually all went away on a holiday to Bali where they use coffee scrub treatments quite a lot. We realised that we kind of had the skill sets essentially to try and form a business based around this, and there was nobody really doing anything like this. And that's where like the basic idea came from.
Such a great business, Frank Body Scrub. You can listen to my full interview with Jess and Erica over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or go over and subscribe free on iTunes or your favourite podcast catcher. I'd love you to do that. Hey, I'd also love to hear from you. Email me, tim@timreid, reid.com.au, or hit me up on Twitter @TimboReid. Big thank you to Workplace Assured for their support. Remember, no matter what curly question you have around running that beautiful business of yours, the team at Workplace Assured can shed some light on it, saving you a whole lot of unnecessary expense and worry along the way. You can try them out for free today on 1300 496 955. And be sure to grab a hard copy of the Key Person of Influence book over at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. Only if you want to become more visible, valued and connected in your industry. It's an absolutely fantastic read. A bit like myself. If you love the show, please let others know. Other small business owners know who could do with a bit of marketing love. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. Always have been, always will be. Thanks for listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.